Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Tuesday on which people are losing their minds, and with reason this time. So, obviously, yesterday we get the news that Martin Zubimendi has decided to stay with Real Sociedad. I've seen some people criticise the player, and he does deserve a modicum of criticism because it took him quite a while to get to this decision. So you can criticise him a little bit that he didn't let us know earlier. But as I've said repeatedly over the last few days, I fully understand the decision that he's made because that's his club. It's no different to Gerrard staying with us in 2005. And you can say, oh, we just won the European Cup. Yeah, and we were 5th in the league. Like, we're one of the worst European Cup winners. Even though, like, our run was very good, that's not the issue. I'm talking about the actual team. That team is one of the weakest European Cup winners of the last 30 years. Like, it's up there with Porto, the 2 Chelsea teams. It's better than them, but it's not a lot better than them. When you look at the team that played in that final, there's some dross in that team. But as I said the other day, Zubimendi winning the Copa del Rey with Real Sociedad is every bit as big for him and for them as Gerrard winning a European Cup is for him and for us. There's just 2 different clubs with different expectations, but the tie to the club is the same. Gerrard was a Liverpool boy who grew up supporting the club, was in our academy his whole life, came through into the first team. Zubimendi is a San Sebastian boy who grew up in the city, came through their academy, grew up through that club, and came into the first team. It is the same thing, whether you like it or not, whether we want to accept it or not. That's just how it is. But I can understand people being upset. Absolutely. It looked like we had this deal in hand. The only criticism I would put towards us is that maybe we should have been a bit more forceful. It did seem like we were taking a softly kind of approach, like let's not rush him. Let's make sure that he doesn't feel pressured. We don't want to, we don't want to frighten him kind of thing here. And maybe we could have been a bit more forceful, but ultimately, I think we did as well as we possibly could have with this deal. And I did see Mo Chatra say, well, we wasted some time trying to negotiate a fee when maybe we could have just paid the release clause. And I have to disagree here. Number one, it made more sense for us to try and negotiate a fee. Number two, it would have been much worse if we had paid the release clause and then he changed his mind. Or if he'd actually signed for us and then gotten cold feet. And then you've got an unhappy player. You've got a player who isn't sure and he's signed and you've paid money for him. We're better off finding out now that he wants to stay than finding out afterwards that he didn't want to leave. Much better off. So it's very disappointing because he is an outstanding footballer. He's one of the best in the world in his position. He would have fit on ball brilliantly. There were some significant doubts about off ball. Not him, but more the partnership of him and Alexis. As I said, you could mitigate it by playing that defensive left back and by limiting the transitions that you face. But it's not like it was a super fit off the ball regardless. There are others out there, and I know, look, it's very clear that the journalists were briefed at once, it's unlikely we're going to go and pursue another 6. I'll call bullshit on that now. It's quite obvious the club didn't want the Zubimendi thing getting out when it did. But Ornstein found out, and the club couldn't deny it once he'd found out. And then the others had to be briefed. Joyce, Steele, Hunter, whoever else. They had to be briefed once Ornstein had the story. But it's quite obvious Ornstein didn't get the story from us to begin with. And it's very likely that right now, the club are in a little bit of damage control and trying to circle the wagons and get themselves back on an even footing. And they don't want any noise. They don't want anybody saying, oh yeah, well this player's an alternative or that player's an alternative. There's rumours going round about Bruno Guimaraes. James Pearce has shut them down today. It still wouldn't surprise me if he went for Guimaraes because Pearce is not a reliable source of information. And when he talks about senior sources at Anfield, I mean, he's not talking about Edwards, Hughes, Hunter or Fallows or Mike Gordon or John Henry or anybody that actually might know what's going on. He's not talking about them. Who his senior sources are, it's very questionable. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to what's being said in the press today. I think they will regroup and they'll go again. I think they will approach whoever the next name on their list was. And there's no way, regardless of what anybody says, there's no way that the only 6 that they looked at and thought, yeah, he's the one, is Martin Zubimendi. There's absolutely no chance of that because it's been viewed for years now that one of the hardest tasks in football would be getting Martin Zubimendi away from San Sebastian. He's turned down Arsenal, Bayern, United and Barcelona that we know of. Who knows who else he's turned down? So there's no way they looked at it and went, oh, well, we have our target now. We don't want any other targets because we're definitely confident we can go and get this guy. That would not have begun with us confident of a deal. It would have begun with more of, an exploratory thing. And it would have worked from there and we would have built confidence from there. But initially we would have gone into that unsure of where he would stand because, again, everybody has said for years, getting him out of there is going to be very, very tough, near impossible. And it is known that we've spoken to the agents of other defensive midfielders this summer. And there have been others whose names have gone around. There will be others that they will like. So my guess is they don't want the name getting out until it's time for the name to get out. That they want to dampen the noise and they want to work in silence, media silence, and try and get a deal done across the line because they don't want this type of thing happening. Now, I've seen people yesterday starting to criticize the owners over this deal. And genuinely, if you're criticizing the owners over this deal, you're an idiot. Because the owners had nothing to do with it. The owners were happy to pay the fee. The owners had signed off on significant wages for the player. The owners are completely blameless when it comes to the Martin Zubimendi thing. I've seen people criticize Edwards and Hughes. And yes, there is a modicum of criticism that is due their way, but it is because they maybe weren't as forceful or allowed it to linger longer than it should have. Like maybe they could have walked away from it a few days earlier when it, started to get a little bit wobbly. But why should they if the player has said yes? Like, this is the thing. The player did say yes to the move, and then he changed his mind. But it was a yes, but let me speak to people. It wasn't a, yeah, let's go, let's sign right now. They believed that they were working towards a deal. They were trying to be respectful to the player, to the selling club. They were trying to operate in the right way. And unfortunately, it just fell apart on them. But I've seen people say, oh, they've been in the job now months, and they haven't done anything. Well, that's just not true at all, is it? Hughes was working for Bournemouth up until the end of last season. He started work on June the 1st. Edwards started work on June the 1st. Yes, Edwards knew he was coming back, but Edwards also had other commitments that he had to finish up. So they didn't have this long run into the summer. Julian Ward came back then after that. The Portuguese chap joined after that. They didn't have some long run into the summer. But the idea that they've done nothing is just completely untrue. First and foremost, they appointed a new manager. Does that not count for anything? They appointed a new coaching staff, an entirely new coaching staff. That took time. It's still not fully complete. There's another deal to be done. They're waiting, I think, on visa approval for somebody. There's rumours that it's Anthony Barry, but he wouldn't need a visa. But that all seems to have gone a bit quiet. But there is apparently another coach coming in. They've had to rebuild the medical staff. They've had to rebuild the analytics staff. Partly because some of the medical staff left when Jurgen left. Partly because a lot of the medical staff left when Jurgen and Linders and Kornmeier were overseeing things. The medical staff shrank significantly. Which probably is part of why we've had so many injuries in the last couple of years. It's worth considering. The analytics staff had shrunk because they weren't being listened to and people were leaving under the previous regime. So they had to rebuild 2 departments. Those things don't happen overnight. So that's quite a big job as well. So now you've got 3 things. Coach, coaching staff, and 2 different departments that had to be rebuilt. And that's all been done, give or take. They also had to undertake a proper assessment of the squad. And people can whinge and moan all they want about this. But the fact of it is, they wanted this manager to do a proper inventory of the squad. That's what they wanted. Who do you want? Who do you not want? And who might you want in the future, but you don't need right now? And that's why we're seeing Carvalho go. It's why we're seeing Ben Doak likely leave. It's why Bisetic has been told he can go on loan. It's why Bobby Clark is going to be sold. It's why there's a bunch of others that'll probably be sold, like Tyler Morton, Owen Beck. Like, we talk about Liverpool have one of the smallest squads in the league, but we don't. It's just not true at all. We might have one of the smallest squads of players who are classed as senior players, but in terms of the training squad, it was significantly bloated because Jurgen had a lot of players who were under 21 who were training with the first team and being kept at the club for reasons known only to Jurgen and Pep Lijnders. We also had quite a few players out on loan. The club doesn't want to operate like that anymore. So they're going to move these players on. And they're going to move them on in deals that are favourable to the club, such as their Carvalho deal, where we make a significant profit on the deal, 18 million or so, and we include a sell-on clause. There's probably a buyback in there as well. Bobby Clark will go on a similar deal where there'll be a sell-on and a buyback, and we'll make 10, 11 million profit on him, which is significant considering what he joined 2 years ago. Ben Doak, probably a similar enough deal, and we'll make a significant profit on him. And the idea of this, some people want to say, oh, the club are clearly in financial trouble. They're not at all. Our accounts are public. You can go and view them for yourself. If you don't understand what they say, get in touch with Mo Chatra on Twitter and he'll explain them to you. But we're not in any kind of financial trouble. We're also not funneling money to FSG for them to go and buy the Boston Celtics. That's just nonsensical. That's not a thing that's happening. It's not a thing that ever could happen. We also didn't put any money into FSG for them to buy the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's just something that was made up by a lunatic in Limerick and should be ignored.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with multi-view, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. With Ramp, you get full visibility into your company's spending and control who spends what with each vendor. Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts instantly to save your team valuable time. Ramp automates data entry and routine tasks with automated approvals, expense categorization and bill payments, time-consuming tasks, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. Get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
The club is in a good position financially. The club has to operate smartly. Like, if we look at our rivals, okay, if we take a look at our rivals, Chelsea, massive debt. United, massive debt. City exists by a shoestring right now. Because if the Premier League does hammer them, and they get the punishment that they should get for the 115 charges, they'll be out the gap and we won't see them anymore. Arsenal are under significant debt. We're the only one that aren't. Spurs have huge debt from their stadium as well, but like, whatever. We're the only one that's not existing under significant debt. We're the only one where we're not either in huge debt or entirely reliant on ownership funding. Newcastle, Villa, City all heavily reliant on ownership funding. Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea are heavily reliant on ownership funding as well. They're also in colossal debt. We're the only club of the big eight, the rich eight, whatever you want to call it, who are actually on really stable long-term financial footing. And it's kind of important, because if the rules change again, which they probably will, we don't want to get caught short. We don't want to get caught with our pants down like other clubs will. We don't want investigations year after year into our finances, which is what City face, which is what Chelsea are facing, and which is what others are going to face in time. We don't want to have to sell 20% of the club to some guy who wants to come in just to turn it into a cash cow for himself under the guise of, well, I'm a Manchester United fan and I'm here to save the club. Now, please, government, give me money so I can build a new stadium to line my pockets. We don't want that. We don't want to hear that the club are going to lay off 1,000 staff members as United are looking at doing. These are not things that we want our club to do. And we're the only club that can look at the next 10 years and say, financially, we're going to be fine. If our owners leave, we're not screwed. City would be screwed. There's no infrastructure at City for those owners to leave. They leave, all their commercial house of cards falls apart. The Glazers have enormous debt on United. Arsenal have been borrowing money heavily the last couple of years to fund their transfers. Spurs borrowed a ton of money for the stadium. Chelsea have borrowed a ton of money for all these transfers that they've messed up. And, like, would you really want to be owned by Todd Bowley? Villa, the owners have been funding transfers now for years. And Newcastle with the PIF, take away the PIF, what do they have? Nothing. So, like, we're not in any kind of financial trouble. There's logic to selling these players on. It's what the academy is actually there for. The academy is actually there to raise funds for the first team. Every so often, it will produce a gem who can go into the first team. And we look at Trainioni and we think he's going to be a first team player. Yeah, everybody agrees with that. Rio Gamoa, the kid we've just gotten from Chelsea, he's another one that's viewed that way. Alvin Ayman, the other kid that's coming in from Wolves, these kids are viewed that way, that these are potential gems for the first team. But if they don't make it to the first team, we'll be able to sell them at a good price. That's the purpose of an academy. Unless you're Southampton, you know, that level of club where you rely on it heavily to supplement your senior squad. We've been relying on it because that was Jurgen's mentality towards it, but that's not the mentality of Hughes, Edwards, or the owners. They want to develop players to sell, bring money in, because it's pure profit. And if we sell, let's just say, Bobby Clark and Ben Doak, because of the age we signed them, and we signed them into our academy, not into our first team squad. They were signed into our academy. So when we sell them, that money is pure profit. So let's just say we sell both of them and it brings in 22 million. Okay, that's 22 million that goes in our accounts this year as pure profit. That 22 million could enable us to go and sign 80 million worth of footballers. Because the installment for this year on those 80 million footballers would only be in around 20 million. So we could go and sign, let's say, Varela and Mamardashvili, right? We get the two of them in for 80 million. 30 million for the keeper, 50 million for the Argentine, 80 million. And we agree to pay 12.5 this summer to Porto for Varela, 7.5 this summer to Valencia for Mamardashvili, and we also loan him back. But that 20 million works out covered by just Doak and Clark, and we haven't actually spent anything on our books. That's smart accounting. Yes, we're still spending money. Yes, we're committing to paying 80 million. But for this calendar year, that's breaking even. That allows us to then go and do something else. It's not just as simple as, we have to keep all these players. Why do we have to keep these players? Why? I think I can fully understand why people are frustrated by the summer so far. Absolutely I can, because we all live in a world where transfers are the most important thing, and we absolutely want new contracts for Trent, Virgil, and Mo. Absolutely, we all want that. Those contracts don't necessarily have to be done in August. They can be done in September, October, November. And you can say, yeah, but in January, they can start negotiating with foreign clubs. They can, yeah, absolutely they can. Which is why you can do those deals in September, October, November, even December, before it gets to that point. We have still months to deal with those. We have months to deal with those issues. But transfers and contracts are just two of the many things that Edwards and Hughes had to do this summer. They're not the only two. Far from it. Everything else had to happen first. Appointing Arne Slot, bringing in a coaching staff around him, and then putting the entire squad through an assessment to figure out who Arne wants, who he doesn't want, and who he might want in a couple of years. So, for example, Stefan Bajcetic. We're not looking at selling him. We're looking at loaning him because he's not good enough now. But he might be in 12 months, more likely in 24 months. So we'll loan him out. Someone like Clark, for example, they might look at him and think, you're really talented, but we don't think you're going to be good enough in 2 years. It might take 3. So we're going to sell you because we don't want to be loaning you out for 3 straight years because that doesn't benefit anybody. We're going to sell you, and if you do really well, we still own the rights to you in that we have a buyback. We will come and get you and bring you back. And the same thing will be true of Doak and McConnell and anyone else that leaves on that type of deal. And the ones that are loaned, straight loan, they're the ones that you can look at and think, okay, the club view that in 12 to 24 months, they're a potential first team option. The ones they sell, it's longer than that. And it's for the best. I mean, realistically, what good is it going to do Ben Doak playing 5 or 6 times a year? Or going on 2 to 3 different loans to different clubs? It's not going to do him any good at all. He's never going to find stability. He's not going to settle anywhere. And when you send players on loan, other teams don't want to develop them for you. Like, other teams have other things that they want to do. They want to have success in their own right. And if that player isn't doing the business, they just want to bin them off. They're not just going to keep them in the team because, well, Liverpool asked us to develop this fella. Doesn't matter if we don't reach our objectives, we're helping Liverpool. That's not how other clubs are going to look at it. Yes, everybody has absolutely every right to be pissed about the Zubimendi thing. But at the end of the day, the club did pretty much everything they could do. And we're prepared to pay the release clause. We're prepared to give him a big sign. Got him further out the door than any other club. Arsenal never got close to getting him out the door. Bayern didn't get close. Barca, apparently he wavered a bit, but ultimately they never got a yes from him. Nobody's ever gotten a yes from him. And we did. So yeah, it looks embarrassing. Yeah, the optics are shit. But ultimately, that's only if you live on social media. In the outside world, everybody else is looking at that and thinking, oh, they almost got him. Fair play. Because he's viewed as a player that's near fucking impossible to get out of there. The same way clubs used to look at Gerrard and think, oh, you'll never get him out of there, despite the fact that we were shit. And you can say, oh, well, Zubimendi doesn't have any ambition. You could say the exact same thing about Gerrard. You really could. So let's all just take a moment, take a breath, take a day or two, and let's see where the pieces fall. Because my belief is we will bring in 2 to 3 players between now and the end of the window. Right, this is Anfield. They've got where fans of all 19 Premier League clubs predict Liverpool will finish. You can have a look at that. There's player ratings for pre-season. The surprise success of Liverpool's pre-season had never played for the first team. Oh, I think that's Lucas Stevenson. He had a pretty good pre-season. City hearing date for 115 charges finally set. Let's have a look. There's a bunch of pieces about not signing sixes. Again, I believe we will. Let's see. Okay. Arsenal, third. An Aston Villa fan said top 3. Bournemouth said third. Brentford third. Kieran Maguire, the Brighton fan, said second. Chelsea fan said third. Crystal Palace fan said top 4. Ipswich fan said fourth. Fulham and Everton fans said third. Leicester second. City fan said fourth. United fan said third. Toon third. Forest third. Southampton third. Tottenham third, West Ham fourth, and Wolves third. So literally nobody thinks we're finishing outside the top 4, other than moronic Liverpool fans who want to have temper tantrums and cry about things. And these are the same people that have been soiling their pants for weeks and weeks and weeks. These are the people that are actually happy the Zubimendi deal fell apart, because it just gave them a new reason to have a whinge, or to attack the owners, or to attack Edwards and Hughes. And by the way, Ian Doyle, you should be ashamed of yourself. You'd have to wonder what would have happened if Klopp had been involved. Was Klopp not involved in the Caicedo situation? Was he not involved in the Lavia situation? Was he not involved in the Bellingham situation? Was he not involved in the Tchouaméni situation? Did lots of players not turn Klopp down? Including 2 he spent absolute months trying to convince to join? Just mind-blowing stupidity from someone who parades around as if he's a journalist. And that just feeds into this nonsensical idea that we're going to finish 7th. The floor for this team is 3rd. This team finished 3rd last year with historic injuries, while being really badly coached. Not by Jurgen, by the other fella. The floor for this team is 3rd. So even people saying 4th is nonsense. We might finish 4th, but 3rd is the floor. 4th will be a big disappointment. And no, it is like a City fan. So, like, who cares what a City fan really thinks? Speaking of the cheats, though, Man City's hearing for their 115 financial charges will begin next month, with bookmakers slashing odds on the Premier League champions being relegated. Let's see. Their hearing will begin on September 16th. And the aim is for a final verdict including any potential appeal, to have been reached by the end of the season. So they've brought it forward 2 months, I assume, to account for the possibility of an appeal, because they want it done by the end of the season. City are now 10-1 to be relegated. So they're favourites to win the league, obviously. But they're 10-1 to be relegated because of this. Yeah. Might be worth throwing 20 quid on. You never know. I'll leave it to the rest of you to check out Dave O.C. Cup, Liverpool.com and Anfield Watch today. We'll check out what is on Anfield Index. And Graham Souness has said this could be the last year for Salah and Van Dijk. That is how contracts work. Jimbo has said that outgoings are imminent. Fans stunned as journalists reveal this is about the not signing the six thing. Wouldn't really believe it. I think it's been briefed, but I think it's been briefed for a reason. There's another piece about Zubimendi. There's a piece about Fabio Carvalho saying he's happy to be somewhere he's wanted. I hope he goes on to have a good career. I really do. Podcast-wise, there's a new transfer show. It's Trev and Dave Davis. There's a new David Lynch podcast. There is an EPL Market Metrics podcast with Dave Davis and Ben Boxek. We are just about to record the next Scouted, which will be part 3 of our season preview. And after taking the summer off to, go and get some suntans and do whatever it is that they do, the Under Pressure boys are back. So their season preview for 24-25, I think they're doing a 2-parter. This is part 1. So it is out, it is up. You can listen to it now. And that's all from me. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.